Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
I still say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
Good Saturday afternoon out there, everyone. Welcome to your number one source for Native American television news, Native News Today. I'm Jason Salzman, your host, here in the Mvskoke Media Studios. As we get ready for this week's episode, got a lot to get to, so we're going to be short here on the front end. We'll have a breakdown in our roundtable discussion. Also, we'll be talking about a new video in our series that we've done here on Native News Today recently. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the episode. And welcome back to the program as we get started to get things kicked off for this week as we bring back a series that we've had here at Mvskoke Media, Native News Today, entitled The Table. It's where we take the folks here at Mvskoke Media that are working in different mediums together for a roundtable discussion on the topics that we're facing and we're covering here at Mvskoke Media for the Mvskoke Creek Nation. So this is the latest installment of our roundtable discussion series of The Table. And we welcome you into another edition of The Table. It's been a little bit since we've been with you with this format, but so glad to be back. We've got a lot of things that is going on here at Mvskoke Media, Mvskoke Creek Nation, specifically in us involved in the coverage of it. So we wanted to have a table to discuss some of the stories that we have. And I am joined now today with our reporter, Honey Carranzo, the editor of the Mvskoke Nation News, Jessica McBride, and our fearless leader here, Mr. Gary Fife of Mvskoke Radio. Surely he wants to catch some of this stuff for the airwaves, and we'll let him get going here in a minute. He does have the radio show today. But guys, one of the paramount things we wanted to talk about was the issue going on with the National Council currently, bringing up one of their own council reps on some allegations from the Internal Affairs Committee. Honey, you've been the lead on this story. What have you gotten so far as Representative Dodie Barnett being before the council on some of these allegations?
Well, Representative Barnett allegedly harassed MCN employees, and during the meeting, they concluded that they couldn't make a decision, so it was put off until March 6th. March 6th,
okay. Now, we've, some of these things before, we haven't really covered a lot from internal affairs, fact-finding, but we have. It's pretty rare. So, Jessica, we've seen this drive the needle a little bit lately on, the coverage needing to ramp up on.
Well, one of the things we're comparing this to is when the council disciplined former Representative Shirlene Aid. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of comparing how they handled that situation to this situation. Internal affairs, in case citizens don't know, is the body of the council that investigates their own. The fact-finding committee investigates outside the council. Half the council is on the fact-finding committee and half the council is on internal affairs. So a little bit about this specific situation is this issue was brought forth by the executive branch. Principal Chief James Floyd brought in a letter, the council reviewed it, they did some interviews of executive branch employees, and then they're going to make their decision. One of the holdups, while Honey was there the other night for her hearing, Representative Barnett's hearing, is that they didn't know if she had enough information to prepare for the hearing. And so that's why they've postponed it to March 6th.
Yeah, and I think one of Representative Barnett's biggest claims, right, has been I didn't know anything about this. I didn't have time to get anything prepared, as you said, for a defense. Seeing some flaws maybe in our legislative process, according to her. But anytime that happens, it brings up a conversation about what exactly are our rules and procedures. Right, Gary?
That is a basic right of Americans to, quote, face your accuser. And in reviewing the material that we've got here and the work that Honey's done, it seems like there's a real flaw in not informing the accused of the charges against her and not allowing her to face those people. We saw where the testimony that was received was voluntary and not sworn.
Right.
So again, that troubles me that it could be just, something that doesn't ring true. And so it's good to see the council take these actions, like with Shirley Nade and now with Ms. Barnett, that shows me that, I guess they're willing to police their own. That's
Right.
good. But in this situation, without fully informing the person who's the accused, that's troubling, and I think that's a slippery slope to go down. And it negates a basic right of people that should never have occurred. And once again, applaud them for taking action for so many years. Like you would know that nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
But now there is, but maybe this procedure perhaps has been flawed, and I think with a postponement, they decided that maybe it was, and they should.
Yeah, where are they at right now? I mean, currently.
Right now, Representative Barnett has time to gather witnesses,
Yeah.
and she has to submit them 5 days before the March 6th.
And she's talked to you for your coverage, right? I mean,
Yes,
she
yes,
have
she
you
has.
on record. What's been her comments for those that haven't seen it or read your coverage? What have her comments been like in tone? I mean, is she confident about the fact that she can, hit this head on, or what?
She is. One of her statements that she's made is that if it really truly is about the people, then they should have removed her from the situation.
Right.
And one of the things too during the international, sorry, not international, Internal Affairs Committee,
Right.
was that they elected not to interview her when they interviewed the witnesses. So that was a big thing during the hearing.
And what's your communication been like with the other side of it, the council, the Internal Affairs?
So far, no comment.
Okay.
One of the other things that we probably need to note too is they're disciplining her according to the council's policies and procedures. So this isn't discipline according to code. Code doesn't outline some of these disciplines for council. Code only outlines removal of officers, and so they would actually have a court trial where a justice would proceed and things of that nature. This is simply a discipline hearing. And those policies and procedures are very different from code. And as we found in the story, and I think Honey can verify this, that the policies and procedures can be changed at any time. So that's one of the other things that we included in the story.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing to remember here is the fact that because it has happened so rarely. I mean, I've been here a while. I don't want to date myself or anything, but I've been here a while, and this just doesn't happen a lot, like Gary said, and it is refreshing in a way that they are noticing things and policing themselves, but at the same time, it also leads to kind of a where are we at with the implementation of some of these things as far as the process, the hearing, the discipline. So you get some people that are maybe not sure of how it works, and we're still trying to figure out how it works and looking exactly what it says in policy. We've even seen the council attorney, need some time to maybe go back and look at things because we need a refresher on maybe what meeting can be held, what can go into this session, what cannot, So those are things that I think, it brings up good conversation at least, because now we're looking at it and we're making sure that there will at least be, if nothing else, precedent going forward. Because you have to believe that this will continue. We've had what now, 2 after not many for the longest of time, 2 in the last couple years here.
Right. One troubling aspect about this particular case is the non-flow of information coming out of the executive branch, out of the chief's office and the PR people. What is, I have to raise a question, what is the reluctance there? Or are they not prepared to take this case through the full procedure?
One of the things that Speaker Lucian Tiger had said when he declined to comment was that he believed this was an internal matter. And so we did receive a no comment, but since it is an internal matter, and some might even compare it to a personnel issue, that's not necessarily public information. The question that I think we should be asking as journalists is, where does the line stop for personnel and begin for public official? Because public official information a lot of times is public information.
It mostly is. Now, I think in this situation, it is not strictly an internal personnel affair because you're crossing the lines between legislative and executive branch. Dangerous path to follow. In my years past in covering national Native issues, this sort of situation pops up a lot where a legislator, it kind of leans on an employee to get what they want. And, this tribe has seen it too in the past, but you have to really think, no, this is not internal. In crossovers like that, it has to be brought to the light of day.
Well, we will continue to keep our eye on the situation as it unfolds. I believe you said March 6th.
March 6th at 6 p.m.
March 6th at 6 p.m. Will be that hearing, and I believe it'll be at the Mound Building, I would imagine, at the Mound Building there. So if you are a citizen that has been following this, or a citizen that wants to be there to see how this is resolved, what comes of it, March 6th, 6 p.m. at the Mound Building, and certainly Honey will continue her coverage if anything comes and develops from this before then, and we'll certainly have wrap-up coverage of that afterwards. Another big issue and story that we're starting to cover and really pursue is initiative petitions, specifically one that's coming up and that we wanted to take a look at. And for reference, if you watched us in the past couple of weeks, we had Secretary of the Nation and Commerce, Eli McIntosh, in studio. Go back and watch his interview. We talked with him about initiative petitions and the process, but it seems that we have one coming up that will require some attention.
Yeah, we received a petition and information that there's a petition going around to eliminate the blood quantum required to run for political office here at Creek Nation. And just some clarification, this is an initiative petition filed by a citizen. So what happens after that is the citizens will go to vote, and all that information can be found in the code and the Constitution, specifically the Constitution in Section 8. And it says the Mvskoke Creek Nation reserves themselves the power to propose laws and to enact or reject the same at the polls independent of the National Council, and also reserve power at their own option to approve or reject at the polls any act of the National Council. So what we're looking at is
Amending the Constitution.
Amending the Constitution, exactly.
And that's something that we've, did you see the poll? I know you've seen the poll that we put up. It's pretty, it's very telling because it is a polarizing issue. We've seen, I think, 52%, somewhere around there, I don't want to say, but that are for it, changing it, and then some that are no, close to that number.
We've had close to 200 votes already, and it hasn't been up for 24 hours, and I've got it pulled up right here. But our responses are interesting because we've got 93 votes saying no, we've got 63 votes saying yes, and we've got 38 votes saying to lower it, but not eliminate it completely.
Right. Yeah, and this is an issue, Gary, in Indian country. Come on.
Right. You can take it to an extreme, like I think the Hopi Nation requires half, 50%. To hold an office at Navajo, particularly their president, you have to be able to speak the language.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is a question that's been debated a long time in Indian country. It's like, do we lower that blood quantum, and what is the result? Do we become less Indian, quote unquote, or do we enable more experienced or skilled, let's call it skilled people, to assume these offices. I think, at some point you have to say, wait a minute now, if this person is 1/8, say Mvskoke, they're also 7/8 something else.
Right.
And at what point, does that 1/8 carry you into office and make you an Indian, quote unquote? As soon as I say that, I know there'll be dozens of people saying, well, I was raised in, I could speak it, but I'm only X amount and ready to jump my tail. But, that's the case. And for the future, that erosion of blood quantum could get you in a situation where you've got someone with a minuscule amount of blood. And then you think, well, where's the Indian part in this?
You have lots of sides to it. I mean, like you said, at very polar opposite extreme ends of it, you have those that say, that believe even, I would call it the dances with wolves mystique, that anybody can just walk in and adapt the culture and everything like that or whatever. But then you have those that are saying that it works as it is now. We don't need thin bloods to be elected officials. But then at some point, too, you have to realize that the numbers and where we're going as a tribe and the years that it has eroded. As you've said, you look at a pie chart about blood quantum right now. We have all that available on MvskokeMedia.com.
And it's also available through the citizenship site, too. They have the breakdown of the number of citizens by blood quantum.
Yeah, and at a point, it just becomes a numbers game. And you say, how many are going to be left to choose from? You know what I mean? And how many are going to be, you have this large pool of candidates that could come in. And some people, think that it's fine as it is now. Some people think that blood quantum restriction is institutionalized racism. I mean, it's just that you can't find 5 people in the same room that'll agree one way or another on it, I don't think. So it'll be an interesting issue to keep an eye on and keep watching as it unfolds, but certainly polarizing. Well, that's all the time we have today for The Table. I want to thank you all for joining us, and keep up with us on MvskokeMedia.com for developments on any and all of these stories concerning the Mvskoke Creek Nation. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining in with me on The Table this week. Gary Fife, Jessica McBride, and Honey Carranzo, as we tackle some of these issues and some of these stories that we're covering here. Stay with us at MvskokeMedia.com for all the latest developments. Well, as I said earlier, we have a video series going on right now here at Mvskoke Media with Native News Today, covering some of the things that we want to get information out about. We've done blood quantum and per capita payments. Our newest installment in this video series is on tribal sovereignty.
Mvskoke Media presents What is Tribal Sovereignty? All of the functions and services of the Mvskoke Creek Nation government are directly tied to tribal sovereignty. But what exactly is it, and how did it come to be? Let's take a look at the concept of tribal sovereignty. In order to understand tribal sovereignty, we first have to examine the concept of sovereignty generally. Sovereignty is the supreme independent authority within a territory. There are 3 key components to the definition of a sovereign. The first concept is that the sovereign has authority, or the right to command and to be obeyed, that is derived from a mutually acknowledged source of legitimacy from within the community. The second concept is that the authority of the sovereign is supreme, and it is superior to all other authorities in its domain. The final component is the territory of the sovereign, which defines the community or group that falls under its authority. The individuals that reside within the geographic boundaries of the sovereign are subject to its authority. Before European contact, Native American tribes were already employing the concept of sovereignty to treat with each other. Tribes and tribal towns would make agreements and treaties in order to end sustained conflicts and promote growth and well-being in their own respective tribes. European contact later established a pattern of recognition of tribal sovereignty through treaties and legal framework that continued throughout the American Revolution and the establishment of the United States. The United States is a federated state, which means that a group of states, in this case, the 50 U.S. states, have transferred a portion of their sovereign powers over to a federal government. so that that federal union becomes the sovereign entity representing those states for the purposes of international law. In relation to federally recognized Indian tribes, this means that while the tribes are equal and thus not beholden to state governments, the federal government does still have authority over them. The federal government recognizes the Mvskoke Creek Nation as a domestic dependent nation, a classification derived from the U.S. Supreme Court case Cherokee Nation v. Georgia. In this case, the Cherokee Nation attempted to obtain a federal injunction against laws passed by the state of Georgia that deprived them of rights within its boundaries. In what would later become a pattern of erosion of tribal sovereignty, the court did not hear the case, but chose not to rule on the merits, determining that the framers of the U.S. Constitution did not consider Indian tribes as foreign nations, but more as domestic dependent nations. 1 year after Cherokee Nation v. Georgia, another Supreme Court case would affirm the sovereignty of the Cherokee Nation, with Worcester v. Georgia, in which Chief Justice John Marshall affirmed that the relationship between Indian nations and the United States is that of nations. The modern era finds the powers of tribal sovereigns in flux. Tribal governments have immunity to lawsuits as sovereigns, but the federal government can force tribal governments to waive that immunity if it sees fit. Sovereign immunity does not extend to individual citizens of tribes. Tribal sovereignty is also expressed in the tribe's ability to adjudicate on crimes committed on tribal lands. In states where Public Law 280 is in effect, federal law enforcement authority is transferred to the state with the permission of the tribes affected. In these states, the state government has jurisdiction over crimes committed by tribal members on tribal lands. Oklahoma is not a Public Law 280 state. The Mvskoke Creek Nation Tribal Court's jurisdiction in criminal cases is determined by the classification of the perpetrator and victim as Indian or non-Indian. Federal court has jurisdiction over crimes defined by the Major Crimes Act, and in all other crimes, tribal courts have jurisdiction over Indian on Indian crimes and Indian on non-Indian crimes. Tribal courts have no jurisdiction over non-Indian offenders. Congress has plenary power over Native American tribes, and through legislation, the sovereign powers of tribes can be expanded or contracted.
All right, and thanks again to Jared Moore, continuing that video series, and all that's available online and on our channel, so go check it out. Well, if you're Native American out there, there's a good chance you like to play horseshoes in your free time. So with that being said, we talked to a couple of Native American citizens that are a part of the Oklahoma Horseshoe Pitcher Association.
I've been pitching ever since I was little, but we mostly pitched in backyard tournaments and, little picnic stuff like that, nothing serious. I really didn't get involved with horseshoes until I was around 40-something years old. And where I got involved with it real heavy is where I went to an Okemah Indian Festival. And I seen a bunch of guys in the back of this shed, they was pitching horseshoes, and I thought, man, I could do that. So I went back there to sign up and play, and I had some old Walmart horseshoes, and I just thrown them away. And I was pretty fortunate because I won the first round. But the second round I played, well, I met this other Indian person, and which is sitting next to me. He showed me how to play horseshoes. I mean, he was hitting ringers after ringers, and then ever since then I got hooked on it, and I wanted to do better. I got involved with that, and then it just evolved. It went from Yukon, Edmond. I've been down all the way down to Denton, Texas to pitch horseshoes in a big series tournament. I've been to Fort Smith down in Cherokee country, pitched down all up in the Stillwell, Telequal, all back up in the country where these country boys were pitching. And I've been back up towards, like I say, Yukon, Oklahoma, and mostly in the north of it, I've been up to Topeka, Kansas pitching horseshoes, and it was serious and a lot of fun. And a lot of it, if you win, it's more bragging rights, not too much money. You do win trophies and t-shirts and maybe, whatnots during some smaller tournaments. But the more and more I pitched, the better I did get. Well, the more I got involved with horseshoe pitching, well, it got to the point to where now we play for money. We get about 6 or 7, 10 of as much as we can. We'll put in a $5 pot, and the winner takes all. And I've been known to win $100 or $2 here and there. And I don't want to retire. Quit my day job for horseshoe pitching, but it's that is really entertainment and a lot of fun. And if you ever see it or get involved yourself, you would enjoy it.
Horseshoe players, I'm just trying to find people who are interested in playing horseshoes, and I try to encourage them to come and play. And I even offer to pay their membership the first year and just get them used to it. And I talk to them about playing and encourage them, and you know, and I just try to encourage them, and I'll go out and try to recruit. In the Oklahoma Horseshoe Pitchers Association, when I first started, there wasn't that many Indians in there, Native Americans, and there was few, but not a lot. And then my brother had started a horseshoe club down in Holdenville, and as a result of that, Ed and Sarah and Sam and all these that he talked about came, and I think at one time we had 21, and I think we were probably one of the largest Indian horseshoe group in the state. And we were probably the second best in the state in the club as a horseshoe club, because out of our club we had about 4 world champions and a lot of state world runner-ups and a lot of state champions and state runners-up and stuff like that. And I just look for Indian pitchers who like to pitch and try to encourage them. Pitching is to get a good pair of horseshoes. Because I look at people, guys who pitch, and I see how their style is and how they release their shoe and stuff. And I always said, if you can get a good pair of horseshoes in his hand, he's going to become a good horseshoe pitcher. And I actually did that one time in one of our clubs. A friend came by and he had good form and everything, so I loaned him a pair of one of my good horseshoes, and he almost beat me. And I've done that twice to people. And it's just because they got a good release and a good form of pitching. There's some that like to have fun, and there's some who are serious, and I'm one of those serious ones, but then there's times when I just have a good time and I don't expect to win, I just go out there just to have fun. And then when I try to win, then I just take a different attitude towards it.
Hey, that's going to wrap it up for another episode this week. We want to thank everybody out there for joining us. We really love it when you join us here on our home station, the CW19, but also if you could catch us out there online, that's great. If you're out of the viewing area, please continue to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as all of our social media sites. And don't forget, all of the latest developments and story happenings at Mvskoke Creek Nation and what we're covering at MvskokeMedia.com. For Jason Salzman, Jared Moore, and Devin Luxinger, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.